Hi, my name is Corey Olson. I'm owner and CEO of Infusion Solutions. And today we're going to give you a sneak peek on our new wine and spirits solution built on Business Central. We've been in the Microsoft channel for over 20 years. We're located in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we specialize in creative solutions throughout the whole Microsoft stack. We specialize in distribution, not-for-profit, higher education, and healthcare, but we have a tailored solution for wine and spirits wholesalers. Up to now, that's been built on Microsoft Dynamics GP. We work with over 20 wine and spirits distributors across the U.S., and we offer consulting services on business processes, integration services, Power Platform development, and of course support both Microsoft Dynamics GP and now Business Central. Today, I'm really excited to show you some sneak peeks in this new solution we built that leverages the best of Business Central, 365 Wine Trade, and some custom solutions we have added for integrations, reporting, and other things that meet the needs of our wine and spirits wholesalers. I'm really excited to show you this new feature today. I hope you enjoy it.
So today we're going to cover state liquor authorities, which is referred to in the system as SLAs. That's going to cover customer license restrictions, brand management, and we'll tell you some other features that most of our current distributors aren't using now, but you could use in the future. So we'll breeze over some of those in the compliance side and the SLA side to let you know that they're out there. So in the future, if you have a different organization or a different part of your company that springs up, that might be of interest. We're also going to go over beverage tax, which is often referred to as gallonage tax in the system, or excise tax. That's under your state reporting. We'll talk about tax accruals for that. And then we're going to talk about municipalities. Not every state has municipality tax. I know in Tennessee we do. But there's other states that do not. This is collect and remit tax. Very similar to sales tax, do use Business Central sales tax module, just like in our GP product, we use the sales tax module for that. We're going to talk about how that reporting works, how that collect and remit. There's some really great features inside of Business Central. The key thread that connects all of these together is the state beverage tax category of an item. And you'll get to see that in the system and how that connects all three of these types of taxes really together. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and jump directly into the system. I'm in Business Central. I'm in my infusion test company that we have set up with test wine and spirits products. So the first thing I'm going to do is go under our 365 Wine Trade menu, under the setup, under wine setup, and in the compliance tab. On here, you have options to bypass certain compliance categories. So as an example, I'm not bypassing license type check. Now you'll get three other choices to bypass license type check. License type check is where you check a customer's license type, two types of products that they can buy. So whether they can buy wine and spirits or beer, or whether they can buy beer and wine only, etc. So you can say, hey, I don't want to keep up with that in the system, and you can bypass that. That does not bypass the need to assign a beverage type to an item, an alcohol type is what it is, or that a customer has some kind of license. It just is not going to make the match to restrict it off of a sales. So that's important to know. The other one that I have chose to bypass here is item registration. So the system does come fully compliant because wineries are a big industry for 365 Wine Trade. So you do have the option to register your item in different states, track that, track the COLA, all of the other pertinent documents to make sure you register properly in that state, and then you can't sell it in states you haven't registered. So this is really great for distributors who also maybe have independent brands that want to track more in what states you can distribute those products. So for now, for most of our distributors, I have bypassed that. These other things are really related into the wineries and other things. This excise tax is not our beverage gallonage tax. So we're not going to use that part. Again, that's specific on the winery side of the world. So I'm not going to go over through a lot of those features today, but there are a lot of great features for your own brands and handling those inside the system. We're going to dive right into our state liquor authority, and I'm going to jump into the state license setup. So I have my main state here that I'm going to talk about is Tennessee. In my test company, I am a Tennessee distributor. You can have, of course, more than one state and keep up with different if you distribute in more than one state. So that's fine. And all of that is compliant in here as well. Now, the first few options here of setup into this state and how we're going to interact with this state is state liquor authority methods, license status code, and license credit code. All of these are made for interaction with your state. So if your state electronically sends you a file, they currently 365 Wine Trade integrates with New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. We can set up other states as well into that communication. That's where the state will tell you what licenses are available. They might tell you what to link with so that you can't sell to them, etc., or expiration as well. So these three first categories really impact if you're using that automation so that it can then communicate back and forth with the system in adding the new licenses and causing delinquency. We do that in our Infusion GP as well for certain states, again, mostly in the Northeast. But those are available. I'm not going to go in detail on those three today because most of our distributors are not using the interaction from their state because their state doesn't offer it. One note for this is there is a license credit code which do link to a credit class code, but that's not the same. So it links to the credit class code. If you've been on one of our other webinars on AR, we talked about how credit class codes can put holds on orders for customers. So you can link a license credit to a credit class code, which then will put the customer on order. You don't have to do that. You can just go straight and put the customer on a credit class hold, which is, again, if you don't have that interaction from your state, probably more likely of what you do. And I will point that out a little bit later in our demo. So again, really great interaction that you can do, but an extra step you don't probably need to do unless you're, again, getting that from your state automatically. Now, what we are going to dive into is the rest of these categories here. And the first one is license type code. So license type code is going to be used to cross-reference against one of our other categories that are coming up here soon to say what customers can and can't buy. Now, it also can be used for reporting. So again, it doesn't have to be a one-to-one that they're a liquor, they're a wine, they're a beer only, etc., like sometimes some of you keep. Instead, you can also have this more specific, either related exactly to the way your state has them listed, or maybe related to the way you want to group them for reporting, and that if your state doesn't require you to report that. So in this case, I have some bar, I've got catering, I've got restaurants, retailers, suppliers, and wholesale. Now, in addition, notice here, remember we can bypass that license type check for the whole system. We can also bypass it for this whole state, which I will show you here in a second. And I can also bypass it individually for individual licenses. So as an example, like in-house, you're probably not going to say, hey, they can't buy wine or spirits or anything like that. Normally you bypass it. I will show you in the setup of those license types to different product types that they can buy. It's super simple just to click all of them as well. So bypass, not necessary probably, but this would make more realistic sense to use that feature if you would like. So once I've set up all my license type code, here's that little bypass check for the whole state, as I mentioned before. And here's also an allow license edit. This means I can go to the card and edit individually. You would always want this checked unless you were in a state where you're doing electronic interaction. And then you might not want someone overriding it manually. Let's talk about state beverage categories. Now, these three here are very much named similarly and can be a little confusing. State beverage categories, license categories, and beverage tax categories. Beverage tax categories is going to be our driver to how we report to the state. So we're going to circle back to this guy when we talk about gallonage tax. State beverage categories are going to be our optional that people use for groupings of stuff, especially in like pricing report or item registration. So you might have something legal that you need to communicate different categories or groupings in exports or reports. So that would be our state beverage category. Again, for most of our states who do not do price reporting, then this again is completely optional. State license category is going to be our cross-reference with license type. So license category to license type is how we're going to say what products can be bought or not bought. So this can be a one-to-one to your state tax categories, but in this example, in my state of Tennessee, I have two different wine categories. And the state really lets me buy maybe both all the time when I have a wine-only license. So I don't need to necessarily separate those into two. If that's not true in your state or that's not true in the way you handle your organization, then you could separate that and be a one-to-one to your state beverage category. So in this case, I have put beer, cigars, non-alc, spirits, and wine. In my state beverage tax category, again, a little different, not too much different because I still like to group my items pretty much the same way, but notice here I broke out my wine. In this state, I have wine 5 to 7 and wine over an 8 and over. Now that we've got all of our kind of categories set up for the state, now the next part is to kind of manage some of those cross references. So first, let's start. I'm going to go into my license type management. So this is where we see all of the license types I've set up, my bars, catering, restaurants, etc. And then all of the state license categories that I set up for products. So beer, cigars, non-alc, spirits, and wine. So now I can say which licenses can buy which products. So instead of setting that as a per customer basis, all I'm assigning at the customer level is what kind of license they have. And overall, I've already set at my license type management here which products that means that they can buy. Again, we can skip this as well, but we can definitely just check all of them across as well. So it's not really that intense to check those, either. So I think it's kind of nice visually to see what everyone can buy with what types of licenses. Now, to manage customer licenses, you really have a couple different options. So the first thing we can do is we can look at all customer licenses in mass. So I'm just going to go here to under my state liquor authority under customer licenses. Here I can see every customer I have that I've set up, and I can see what license type that I've assigned to them. I can also see what their license number is. If I'm tracking any kind of status or activity code, I can see that. I can also see any expiration or effective dates if I was tracking that. When was I last updated? Now notice these red. It's not, I don't have anything turned on that's stopping, but all of these red, I'm in a test company, so please mind you that, but all of these are past due. So it's visually telling me I have a past due related to this customer, and it's turning it red, which is a really nice visual indicator to that. Now, it's not stopping anything because I haven't assigned a credit class hold due to delinquent in this system, or all of my customers may be on hold. But I could do that as well. So when they become delinquent, I of course can put them on hold. Again, we have specialized past due jobs that we'll talk about in another session. So I can, again, manage these licenses straight from here. So if I have an update, I have a license change or something I want to do, I can edit the list and just go from here. Now, I don't have to do that. I can also go and manage that individually at the customer call. So I'm going to go to one of my customers here, Dixie Lee Wine and Spirits, Wine and Liquor. They're actually down the street from me here. And I'm going to scroll down on the customer card. And I'm going to look here in this credit fact. And under here on the credit fact tab, you can see this line is exactly of what was in the list that we just saw. So the license number, all of that. Again, you can put that on the customer one-to-one, manage it one-to-one. You don't have to manage it from that list. It does give you a nice, concise place if you're updating multiple or doing something like that. So again, thinking of processes for your organization, depending how you get, even if you don't have an electronic submission from your state. If you're getting an email, and instead of going customer to customer to change the credit class code, which is really easy off of the customer card here that you can change. You can, again, do a license credit code, which would link to a credit code. So when I change the license credit code, it would change the credit code. Now, why would you want to do that instead of just doing the other? Well, if I'm managing it from a singular list like I was on before, that's a great way. That field is available for me just to do mass amount of changes. So again, just depending how your organization works. So here I can, again, update the same information, license number, expiration, all of that. And I can, of course, if I'm not using that license credit code linked to a credit class code, I can change it here manually, whether it be new customer, license hold, etc. And this guy, again, either because I've changed it here and I've linked it to a credit class code, is what's going to order or prevent new orders. So lots of great ways to manage, all based on how your organization would like to manage that. And that's something we'll walk through in your design meeting to help you understand. So now we've looked at the credit class side and the credit, the customer kind of management. Let's jump into talking more about the item. First, I'm going to go to our compliance modules tab. I'm going to look at brand item registration. Now, in our brand item registration, this is where I can say certain brands can be available to sell in certain markets and or counties. The field this is pulling from is our sales region field. So sales region is used. Now, this can be used to say this whole state. It can be used to say different markets. So you can see I have Chattanooga, Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, or it can even be used to be more specific into different counties. So that really depends how your organization fits best in your state. So as an example, in East Tennessee, we do have some counties that belong and don't belong. So we might want to group those together a little bit more than just saying all of East Tennessee, where a lot of times in other areas that it might relate to, even within Tennessee, it's pretty much the whole market that we get the ability to sell. Now, the other part to this is to remember the brand. So we do want to look to see how does your supplier license your brand to you within your state. So that brand is what we want to list here. Typically, that's a family brand. But depending again on your state, we want to make sure that brand is logical to how your licenses need to be. Most of you have a spreadsheet or a separate database that you're keeping this exact information into. So our goal would be to get that inside of the system. That way, one, we're not doing dual entry, and two, it's super easy to be able to report for you, for a supplier on their brand, what is the availability of what counties and or what regions or what markets you can sell that into. So really neat information here. And again, then we don't have to set it up per item. When the item belongs to that brand, it automatically then looks here to see what sales regions I can sell that to. And on the sales region side of the world, we assign that to each customer. So each customer is assigned to a sales region, each item is assigned to a brand, and those two are what we're looking at here to say if it's allowable or not allowable. Again, you can bypass that item registration link if you didn't want the system to stop or start you based on what it can or can't sell. So this is an option within the system. Now, let's dive just a tad into brands a little more. I'm going to go into my 365 wine trade and go to my item setup and into my brand. A few different fun things here. I can associate documents to the brand. So remember how I was saying a lot of people keep these spreadsheets outside of the system. This is a way, again, keep all that data in one place for everyone to be able to look. I've also associated, can be associated to a producer. I've personally assigned it to a supplier. Again, that's more relative on the producer side of the world if you are keeping that. But for me, I really like putting that as a supplier because then I can sort and see by supplier all the different brands. And then, of course, from the brands, see all the different counties that they can be sold. So very transparent, and we can add that producer again, because it's linked to the brand into that other list. So you can sort from these. So all very easy. In addition to that, I can see over here to the side how many items are assigned to each of those brands. So I can jump right into that as well. So I'm just going to jump in. I have 5 items assigned to my Gentleman Jack from Brown-Forman. So I'm going to jump into that list. And then it's going to show me what 5 items are assigned here. So I'm just at my item list. It's filtered down to that brand. And then from here, I can just jump into my item card. And while we're there, I'll show you where you can manage that at the item card level as well. So just like customers, how we can manage that at the list, manage that at the item card, or at the customer card, the same goes here. So I'm just going to scroll down to my 365 wine trade. Oops, sorry, too far. It's very busy. There. Now it's doing so. So here I've associated this brand in my classification. So that's how it knows it's connecting to that. In addition, if I go down here to my compliance tab, notice everything about this item. When I set up my item, I've set it up to a license category of spirits. And in this case, they're all the same all the way across. My beverage tax category is also spirits. And then this one is an optional one that I'm not really using, but I just named it spirits as well in case I want to use it in the future. So all of these options, again, can be managed here at the item card itself, and you'll probably do that as you set up each item. I'm going to go back just a minute to brief over a few other things that are in this compliance tab before we move on to beverage tax. That we're not going to go over in detail, but I would like you to know that it's there. So the goal of what we've done in Business Central is try to get rid of all these spreadsheets, things you're keeping in Outlook, things you're keeping somewhere else that only one person knows, and give you a spot to keep that. Now, whether you do that or not, that's up to you, but it is great that you have one central place. So just like we were talking about those worksheets where you're keeping all of the brands and what counties are allowable to sell, you can attach all those contracts and scanned in documents. That's fantastic. You can also keep up with addresses for contacts and compliance. So whether it be a licensed authority, contact, an address, or someone that you need to contact. So again, whether that be solicitors, whether it be compliance people, you can set up those contact information addresses so people will know, oh, this is the person we're supposed to talk to at the state for whatever certain purpose that is done. Another kind of neat thing again that we have is we have some detailed item registration that can be done for each sales region that will track the registration numbers, your expirations. Again, this is more related to those of you that maybe are carrying your own labels or your own brand. So if there's something you want to keep up, or maybe you have a small supplier that doesn't do a great job in keeping up stuff, so that might be a reason that you want to kind of register that. And again, this is one thing, you don't have to register it. You can bypass that. But you do have the option to do that as well. And worksheets in our compliance here, we have these compliance worksheets. And these worksheets can be done to track your documents that you need to turn in. Again, more related to your brand. And maybe you need to have your COLAs and do a document that you're sending. So all of that can be tracked, grouped together, and sent along with your purchase order case for that. All kind of information you could do. We're not going to spend a lot of time in that area because, again, that's not used a lot by a lot of our distributors. But many of you might be doing it outside of the system. So I do want you to know that it's there and possible for you to do. So let's look now at how this information is getting into the system and what that results to on our sales order. So to go into the system, I'm going to go to the sales order in here. And the first thing I want to point out is I have a beverage tax area code that I have assigned a customer to. So in this case, my Dixie Lee wines and liquor are assigned to a beverage tax area code of Tennessee. When I have that customer, it will default. I signed it at the customer card and it'll default into the order. Now, in addition to that, we have one little thing that we have found as we started to test, as you'll see in our tax setup, is that we do have to have a separate one for non-alc because it's not going to accrue a tax. And Business Central does not like accruing zero on a sales order. So part of what we have in our sales customer setup is on an invoice break, you'll actually be able to change that beverage tax area. So that will be a part so that we can say, oh, these are non-alcs, and we're going to kind of keep that separate because it's going to accrue zero. So any zero gallonage tax or beverage tax calculation will be kind of in the same state, but with non-accrual setup. And again, that will be governed by invoice at the customer, just like we do now in our current system to other kind of taxes as well. Now, an item, of course, is assigned that beverage tax category. We already looked at that on our gentleman Jack here. That was assigned to a spirits tax category. So those two things together, which beverage tax area code and what beverage tax category is set at the item is going to result in how it accrues. So here, if I look at my preview posting, it's going to show me all of the GL that's affected related to the combination of these two things. So in here, I'm going to see my GL entry, and I see my beverage tax payable and my beverage tax. And I have both wine and spirits, so you can see it has split to different accounts, to my cost of goods of beverage tax spirits here and beverage tax wine here. So let's take a look at the setup that drove that accrual. We've already looked at how we set up the item in the customer, but let's look at how we assign those rates. So I'm going to go into here, into our 365 wine trade, and I'm going to go to our beverage. And in here, I'm going to go to my beverage tax areas. This is where I've set up my Tennessee, and then I have Tennessee non-alc. And as you can see, I have here in my Tennessee, and then I've assigned different jurisdictions to there. The jurisdiction is what's driving the posting account. So here at the beverage tax area, I've said for this jurisdiction, it relates to this tax category. and the effective date. And then I get to choose, do I want it to calculate based on liters or gallons? And then I get to assign a rate per that liter or gallon. So instead of assigning it at each individual item for how much the gallonage tax is, like we've done in our previous solution, this solution, you are just naming the item to a beverage tax category, the customer to a beverage tax area, and then it's looking here to find what is the calculation based on that beverage category. In that beverage tax jurisdiction, I'm just going to go here. It's naming the accrual account. So I can have different accrual accounts, different cost of goods related to each type. So I can split my spirits and my wine, etc. That's why each of these need to be different jurisdictions. Now, one of the things it doesn't incorporate here that we're going to have to incorporate in the per liter part or work out differently is in Tennessee, as an example, they have a per case. So you can say per case is not one of the options into there. So we're working out some calculations to see. Right now we incorporate that in the per bottle size, but that's done based on the case, and we're setting that per item. Obviously, we're stepping away for that per item. So we're looking at what is the difference of that accrual. Of course, it's just for the accrual that's impacting. It's not impacting how you pay and state to there. But of course, we want that accrual to be as close as possible. So we're looking at some calculation options, and we might have to do a modification to that, but we're looking at that now. Now, one thing here, notice this also gives us the ability of a customer charge. This isn't how we're going to do municipality tax. That's a collect and remit tax, because that's based on sales dollars. That is handled greatly in the base DC. However, we have run across a few states, one of those is Illinois, where they do charge collect and remit tax for municipality tax. Same theory, they do it on liters. So if there's any kind of collect and remit tax based on liters or gallons, this would be your place. Now, just as you're calculating it by liters, our reporting will always show in liters and in gallons. So don't worry about that. This is just for the calculation of the actual accrual, taking the volume of what's listed at that item and then assigning that appropriately. And again, so most people, most of our distributors are still assigning it by liters at the item. So then that's how it's going to look to do that accrual and that rate amount, but then it'll report to your state and gallons. Perfectly. Now here's where I say post to the GL. So as you can see, I'm saying post this to the GL. You can track these and not post them to the GL. Business Central does not like to post $0 accruals into your sales. So because of that, obviously we do have to have a separate one for non-alc or it'll yell at us. We do want to track it. We do want to show it. Again, you need to assign a beverage tax category, so it is looking for that. But we don't want to post that to the general ledger. So again, we're handling that by invoice, which is not a problem. And that will fall through, so you'll be able to see that appropriately. So we've done all of the setup, and that's defaulted on my order, like I've already shown. The next thing is it will post here to your beverage tax ledger entry. So here is every invoice detail that has been posted. In our old system, this is the same kind of detail you would get in your outside postal report. Now it's inside of Business Central, and all of this information is taxed. I can see what invoice it went out on, the date, what the jurisdiction, meaning was it wine, spirits, other non-alc, etc. It will show me the case pack, the unit size. I'm able to see what accounts it accrued to. I'm able to see the tax categories. Again, that's your one-to-one on how you should be reporting to the state. And then, of course, over here is all of those calculations by liters, by gallons, the rate and the amount, how many bottles, how much per case, so case equivalent into that. So all of that information is posted every time you post an invoice. So you don't have to worry about a large calculation happening afterwards or running those reports. This ledger entry is here. We're adding a few more columns into this part here so that we then can, again, just use this for our reporting as it relates to all of the sales that goes in and out of your system. Because again, the customer type is also in here as well. So you can see how many you sold to military or whatever it might be. So within here, you can use your analysis mode, and we can build pivots. So again, you're not having to run an external report. You can say, hey, I want by my beverage tax area code or my beverage tax chart. Here we go. And I can then see by wine, by spirits, and of course filter down to the time period you're looking. So very handy in order to do all of your reporting straight in here. We are adding, again, some additional columns that would replicate all of our reporting. And our goal would be we're going to set up for you memorized reports that you'll then be able to run and to use and can always drill down into as well. And of course, all of this can be taken to Excel. So you can open that in Excel and be able to take that out in more detail as well. Another thing we're adding into our tax jurisdiction area as well as into here is information for beer. So on that tax jurisdiction, we're adding those barrel calculations. So when you're looking into this guy, you'll have one for beer, and you will have the different calculations related to barrel. And then that will flow through into your beverage tax ledger entries. Again, same thing. So you can see those different rates for the different calculations related to barrel calculations with beer. So that's being added in as we speak. We have a developer working on that this month. So that will be coming in too. So all of those that information is pulling into here, and those will be your reporting. We also, of course, have your beginning and ending on-hand balances for the month. That will be in a separate area. Again, this is all for your sales reporting as well. So we'll go over that reporting in a future webinar when we have all of those modifications done. We're in the phase of doing all reporting. So now we talked about the setup on each of the customers and items, how that relates to how they buy things. We talked about beverage tax calculation, how it's accruing it, how you're going to report to the state. The next thing we have to really talk about is that municipality. So I'm just going to go into an invoice that we have. We'll work our way backwards into how it calculated our collect remit tax. So in here, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up an invoice I have sent to Dixie Lee. And we're going to look at a few things here first. Just similar to the way that beverage tax works, that 365 Wine Trade kind of copied that off of the way that Base BC works for tax kits. So we're using the sales tax module in order to calculate those municipality tax because it is based off a dollar amount. It is a collect and remit from the customer. So it fits really well. We do that currently in our solution as well. So we've talked about beverage tax area code. This one is the tax area code. So the tax area code is where we have that municipality. So that's assigned at the customer level. So Dixie Lee is in the town of Farragut, and that's the tax municipality we need to remit to into the system. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill in to here, and we'll make our way through how does the tax set up. So in here, I have the tax area of Farragut, and I have one tax jurisdiction. You can have multiple jurisdictions. So as an example, if you were really using this for sales tax, state of Tennessee, you would have Tennessee-not because we have a state and a county tax. So again, you can have multiple. In most of our municipalities, it's a one-to-one. In our current GP setup, we would have a tax area, which we would have called a tax schedule of Farragut, and then you would have had a tax detail of like 5 or 7%. We're not going to do that because this tax jurisdiction is what's driving your tax report. So because of that, we want that to be to the level you need to report to for your tax. So in this case, that's the town of Farragut is who I'm going to remit to. So I'm just going to go and select this from the full list and do the drill down. So here are all the tax jurisdictions I have set up at this time. For my town of Farragut, you can see that I'm using an accrual account of 2060 is where I want to hit that sales tax pool. And I'm going to report this to the town of Farragut. So I'm not rolling it up and reporting multiple to one place. The other things we're going to add into this window that are coming, and again, in the works for this month, is the vendor code, because we're going to automate the AP process just like we have in our current solution as well. And we're doing that for beer as well as for municipalities. So again, both of those are being worked on as we speak. So you will see in this window a vendor ID added so that we can automate that AP entry. So now, one thing you might notice is I have 0 here instead of a percentage. Well, let me show you why I have that. This is a little bit different than our current solution. So if I jump into this details, I'm able to do a little bit more detailed breakdown versus what I was able to do in GP. In GP, we had an item that was either taxable or not taxable. That's it. That's not really the way it works in GP. You can assign products to different tax group codes. And based on that tax group code, you can have different percentages per group code. So if you do a collector remit tax on spirits and wine, we can say, hey, that's our beverage or alcohol, and you can put the percentage that you want to use. If that is non-alc and other things that I've done as non-taxable group code, that can be done at 0. But maybe you have beer that's done, it does have a collect and remit, and maybe it's at a different percent. That's perfectly fine. So you can have all of that within, and it all is based off the tax group code. We used to have to switch the tax schedule at the invoice break in order to accomplish that. And now you don't really have to accomplish that. Based on the items themselves, it will generate the tax appropriate user. We do have the ability to switch the tax area code at the invoice break. We brought that functionality over, but to be honest with you, we probably don't need it if we set up those tax schedules correctly. So once this is set up, it's going to look to the item for the tax group code. It's going to look to the tax area of the customer, and that's how it's going to then generate what kind of sales tax I should post. So in this case, I did my Gentleman Jack. It's at a beverage tax, and I'm in the Farragut, so I should have 5%. So I'm going to go here to my find entries where I can see what's the entries that the invoice comes with. So I'm going to drill into here, and I can see that I posted my tax amount into the system. That account was my $2,600. So right here you can see $10.75. And I should have done a better job of showing you over here that it was $10.75. I also can just drill straight into the tax entry ledger. So this will show me my $10.75 here. The base of what that was from was this invoice of the total sales, and that's how I calculated that. So this tax ledger entries can be reviewed. It's just a list like any other, but obviously I can see that on per invoice. Now you can go and drill back into those tax entries, which is fine, but I like another report better of what you're going to use at the end of the month. We're going to go to a sales tax collected report. And I'm going to run this in summary so you can see it. I can filter it down to just one jurisdiction. So if I just wanted to report for the town of Farragut, we can do that. I also can say I just want to do beverage tax. I don't want to worry about the non-alcs, or maybe I want to do beer separate. So if I had a collect and remit, again, this is only for collect and remit. And in this case, I'm going to do May. So I just did period 5, and it defaulted the date for my May for me. And I'll just hit preview. Now this gives me just a summary of the total for that period. So it's just going to give me one nice amount of what my taxable sales are. We are modifying this report a little bit. I'll show you the detail here, which gives me every single invoice. And the one we're modifying right now is the one that you're familiar with, that will show summary by customer. So summary by customer will be next. That will be listed on what is called the normal layout. Right now that is not showing that way as a summary by customer, but that will be. And again, you can always run, just like we have the ability now to run stuff in detail or in total summary if you didn't want that much information. So these two are ready pretty much to go. The normal is what you do. And this window is also where we're going to add to go ahead and automate whatever you run here. We'll also create the EP entry. So no separate workbook outside of the system. Once you review your report, we will have a field that will allow you to put that discount percentage in, and then it will let you go ahead and create the EP transaction from this processing route. So I'm really excited. The developer who's working on this actually helped Microsoft write the U.S. sales tax module in Navision back in the day. So he's still qualified to help us make those modifications in the system, and we're really excited for him to be working with us as one of our developers. So he is helping us make those modifications to create that. So today, what we have went over is, again, set up on a customer and item level that will help us restrict what products customers can buy, what counties products can be sold in, and then, of course, how all of that setup relates to how we do beverage tax, how we process, collect, and remit tax on a customer.
If you liked what you saw here today and want more information on next steps, or to see more about our wine and spirits solution on Business Central, please email us at info@infusion.com, give us a call with the number on the screen, or visit our website, infusion.com. Check out the Wine and Spirits resource page where you can see other features that we've released for preview as well. Thanks.